Hey, I'm back again with the lovely Angel. Hello, Angel.
Hello, how are you doing this fine day?
We're okay. I was just going. One thing I didn't say. We're in the nearly at 30 Fahrenheit, which is in the 80s. I
Quite
suppose that's
warm.
not that hot, is it?
Yeah.
But when you talk, you always say, "Oh, we're in the 90s," so that's even hotter. But that's quite hot for us. Late 20s. That's nice.
Well, the 80s, it's getting warm. It's where you'd kind of want an air conditioner.
Yeah, we don't have air conditioning. Not many people have air conditioning in their house, but the wind is rolling through my house. It's all nice and cool and everything. It's okay. It says 28 degrees there, so that's in the about 85 Celsius.
Right.
Mm, something like that. Anyway, so today's
It is.
subject. Oh, carry on.
I was going to say, there's one thing that, because we live in different climates and different areas, sometimes I assume so much, um, and like is everyday knowledge and stuff like air conditioners and how they work and how they can get frozen and things like that, that if you don't have one and you don't play with it, you don't experience it, you don't know it.
No, Amy says hers makes. She said, "Do you hear my air conditioning going?" And it's this big fan going, ting 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 ting. You can hear it outside. So we don't have those. We have them in the shopping centres. We have them in restaurants, but we don't have them in our houses very much
Right.
because we don't often. Like, oh, we can have 28 degrees today, and tomorrow it can be 10.
Ouch.
Our weather can change so much. Today it can be like this, and next week, well, it won't be snowing now, but it's a bit like that. It just can change. But I don't understand if we can get this weather, why we don't get it. Well, I think they do something to our weather. We talk about that sometimes, don't we? HARP. They do things to our weather, so yeah. And to us through it. But today I've got the video up about Great Giza Pyramid missing capstone. It's quite a subject of yours, isn't it? Because everybody goes on about the missing capstone, but you don't think there was one, do you?
I think it's a very big red herring. A couple of things have, drawn me to this conclusion, other than the fact that it doesn't even fit the model at all. And I've got so much that draws me to the model I'm using that it's kind of a preponderance of evidence. But let's go with this. Look at it. Just take a physical look at it, and you see that there is a rock garden up there that has a structure, has, it's not, design was actually either cut or molded into the rock. It goes through multiple rocks, so it wasn't a mistake or one happened to be that way. It's a designed thing, and it's not a flat surface or any type of a surface that looks like it's yielding to the deposit of a capstone of any type.
So if you put a capstone on it, just say you put what would that do to the pyramid? How would that change things?
It would vent off the energy that the lack of the capstone is intended to quarantine.
So why don't you think there was one then?
Well, number one, it would completely destroy the system because it would be venting off the static electricity that the lack of the capstone was designed to quarantine. If there's no abundance of static electricity there, the system won't work. It's like having a grill. You got your meat, you got your cheese, you got your buns, but you don't have a lighter, a starter, or a spark starter, any way to start the fire. You could have everything you want: pickles, onions, relish, all that stuff. But if you don't have a way to start the fire, you ain't cooking the meat, and you ain't having a picnic. Without that abundance of static electricity quarantined to the surface of the structure, nothing else works. Now, let's also look at something that when you're down at ground level, and it's a perspective type thing, just like we've discussed with the fourth pyramid, it's a perspective type thing, that when you're down there and you look up at it, you don't realize the size, because you're looking 400 feet away, the size of the area in question. And they try to show you a 6 foot by 6 foot what they like to call a pyramidion. And it may be made out of, like, some sort of crystal only found in the jungles of Tibet or something. I don't care what it is. What I'm focusing on is the physical size. The size of that particular thing that they're trying to suggest to you fit on top of there nice and neat doesn't work, because, number one, the center structure, its top area, which actually, ironically enough, is more visually yielding to look like something was actually put up there. However, it is 9 feet by 9 feet. Again, that would be an additional 3 foot in each direction.
So it's
and
quite
the one
small,
that they show
then.
you in the,
It's quite small.
right. The one they're showing you in the pyramid, although you're standing there and you look at this huge thing in front of you, what you don't realize is the huge thing outside is actually bigger at the top. And that's like somebody giving you a top to a toothpaste bottle and telling you that goes on the milk. You're like, no, this doesn't go on the milk. This is small. This goes on like the toothpaste. I'm like, no, that's the top for the milk. Now, you don't realize that if the milk jar is on the other side of the room and you're unfamiliar with a milk jar. You might believe that and waste your time walking away all the way over there. But either way, the pyramidion that they show you in a museum, if you look at it, the dimensions are about 6 feet by 6 feet. 2 meters by 2 meters.
It's not very big then, is it?
Well, it's big when you're standing in front of it. And you're looking at this big crystal thing that you know that you wouldn't want to carry up a flight of stairs if you won it in a card game. Okay? However, what you don't realize is the structure they're trying to tell you that was the top of is actually even larger. You would actually need something more like the size of a Volkswagen. Now, on top of the Great Giza Pyramid, that's actually 30 feet by 30 feet, 10 meters by 10 meters in diameter. 29 feet by 29 feet, I think, is the actual size. Or, to be precise, I believe it's 28 and a half feet by 29 feet. But, I'd love to get up there with a tape measure and find out myself. But it's still, the size of that is something more the size of 2 lorries sitting next to each other. I mean, 30 feet, the average lane on a drive is 12 feet here in the States. So that's enough for 2 trucks, 2 30-foot long trucks. A 30-foot long truck, that's a decent sized lorry. So that's 2 lorries sitting next to each other. 2 box trucks here in the States sitting next to each other. And they're trying to show you a pyramidion that could fit in the back of one of those box trucks and tell you that that's the magic golden crystal top that was on top of the structure. But because you don't know when you're down there at ground level and you're staring up at this marvelous thing, that they're trying to shove a capstone up your butt, and you don't realize it because of perspective. You don't realize that they're,
But it must be just another theory, because it's not correct, is it? So it's only their stupid theory.
It is their stupid theory, but I'm trying to show people that the answer they're trying to give you doesn't even fit the answer they're trying to answer.
Can I just say that video is only 1.5 minutes long and it stopped. Shall we go to the other one quickly? One second then. So we're back on now, Angel.
Well, in about 2 minutes and 18 seconds, when it gets to the 1 minute and 9 second mark, it's going to be showing you an image. And you notice that there is an antenna that they put on top of the Great Giza Pyramid to this very day. And they try to suggest you it's to prevent lightning strikes and such. And that's great. And in reality, it probably does in some way prevent lightning strikes. However, what it's also doing is venting off the static.
You said that it's got that, like, I just call it the music effect, but the way that they've put the stones in, would it stop all that as well? Because then, you told me it was a what do you call it? A what's the name?
Van de Graaff generator.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to that Van de Graaff generator, which I can whip out. I've got one here. If I touch the side of it, it shorts to ground. Now you can visually see the effect. Well, I don't have a Van de Graaff generator. I'm sorry. What I have is what they call an Illumistorm. It's like a Van de Graaff. In fact, the center of it is kind of like a Van de Graaff generator. But a true Van de Graaff generator vents into the air, as opposed to mine vents into it maintains itself into that ball. And the reason it's actually more visible is because that ball is actually a inert gas, and because of that, the energy has a less resistance in shorting to the outside ball. So it's a more visual appearance. But the Van de Graaff generator is great. In fact, when my video is over, you can pull up pictures of that. You get a girl, blonde, really thin hair. They touch it, their hair stands up. They look like a porcupine. A porcupine with like 18-inch quills. So,
Is it when you're talking about the pyramids, there's always so much to think about.
About how many minutes in is my video right now?
Right,
So
the
I can
picture
try
of
to
the
follow
capstone
along.
is up now. There's a broken one on that one. The top of it's just got stones on it, but it's a little bit broken at the top.
Okay, that's probably the center pyramid. You're probably about...
Yeah, you're just going because we haven't got the
minute
volume.
in.
Oh, there you go. That's the one with the thing on the top of it, and it's what you said.
Right. Now you could...
So I stop it on that for a
When you were looking at
moment.
the other picture, when you're looking at the other picture that you can't see anymore, that one is the one that's 9 feet by 9 feet in diameter if you were to take the top surface area. And the one you're staring at now, you can see there's... Oops. Well, mine just already skipped on to the next video. But you can see, what you can't see there, you will see, I show a better vision of it about 4 minutes in.
Oh, you want me to carry on? Because
that.
basically, you're looking at it now, and it's got the stones on the top, or the crystal, whatever you said, and then it's got like another little like metal thing up there.
Well, how many minutes of the video you at?
1 minute 15.
1 minute 15. All right, I'm just going to go right there. And you're at half speed. 1 minute 15. Oh, it's probably 1 minute like 20 now.
Okay, I'll just play it on. So what am I looking for to stop?
No, that's fine. I just want to. So, in fact, if you're at 1 minute and 26 seconds in there, I actually point out where there's like a heart. The way it's done there, there's like a heart shape, and it's a very defined heart shape that's cut into the rock.
Okay, we're at 125. What did you say?
125. Then I should be. You see how there's my pointer? I'm pointing out at that point the heart shape. You can kind of see in the rocks.
I see what you mean. It's like, to be honest, looking at it right now, it looks like 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth, but that makes up the heart.
You could do that too. It's like a koi pond. It's only about maybe 6 inches deep, but there is a.
Cool, it's got a shadow on it
there.
though, Angel. It's got a shadow on it.
Well, you'll see when we get to the about 4 minutes in.
So I'll let it play then. Carry on.
Just let it play. Let it play. The rocks to the east side are actually higher. There's the well area, the koi pond area, as I like to refer to it, that I was pointing out, and then the other rocks to the east, they actually protrude up, kind of like a nipple. Only I don't think it's representing a nipple, but it kind of looks like if it was a nipple.
Well, in the middle, I see what you mean. I think I see what you mean. Just here on that stone
Right.
there. It's taller, isn't it?
Yes.
You can just see. Right, the video's moving on now. You got some lights.
Are you about the 2 minute mark now?
Trust me, I put it on half speed, didn't I? Yeah, 1 minute 50.
1 minute 50. So you're You're slower than
Yeah,
half
because
speed. You're at like 25.
no, I put half
You're
speed.
at
I
quarter
put half
speed.
speed. I put half speed on, but I stopped it for a bit. Remember when we were talking?
Oh, okay.
We're getting there, guys. Angel can't wait for me to get there. You're looking through your videos now.
Now what I'm showing is if people want to follow along, because people, instead of when I'm showing my videos, if they want to be able to look at the images themselves, I'm demonstrating how I don't try to hide any of my stuff. I'm not trying to do any smoke and mirrors.
No, you've got it all out there,
picture.
isn't it? You're being masked, aren't you? They don't want you. They don't want your information out there.
I want anybody to say, well, what about this? I'll try to figure out what about that. Or, let people put eyes on it for themselves to let their own. Now, there I'm pointing out that one guy that, well, on mine, I'm at
We're going through your videos now.
2 minutes 16.
Do you think what it is everybody's accepted it's not a burial chamber, but then people hear someone else's video and whatever sticks in their mind, sticks in their mind. They don't go further forward after that.
Well, and I'll be honest, when I first started down this venture a decade and a half-ish ago, I kind of assumed that, and I'll throw his name out there, it was, okay, what I'd like you to do is scoot, when you get to about the 2 minute and 26-second mark, stop. All right?
Oh, 2 minutes 26. I've gone past that now.
Okay. Well,
I'll go back.
How far are you?
I'll go back to 2:26. But I don't think there's anything there. Hang on. You're just going through some.
Well, it's a gentleman.
Oh, right, yes. I'm on that bit. I've stopped it there. And there's 3 pyramids.
Right. Well, they happen to be. In fact, if you look,
yeah, there happens to be 3, doesn't there?
You see that fourth
Oh,
one
yeah, the
back
little
there?
one. Yeah.
So if you were on top of that pyramid, knowing you're on pyramid 1, you visually see 3 additional pyramids. And because of perspective, you could think it's further in the distance, but equally as large. You don't realize it's right behind the
and it's basically there should be 6 of them, shouldn't there? And 3 of them are broken. Well, 3 of them are there, and 3 of them are broken, aren't they?
They like to say there's 9. That goes back to my question: is what do you call a pyramid? Where does it break the barrier of a pile of rocks, and when does it become a pyramid? So we could bicker about how many there are and what a pyramid is.
I know, and you say technically there's only one, because pyramid means far in the middle, and there's only one that you know of at the moment that has a far in the middle, which is the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid.
I could not have worded that better myself, and that is what I said.
Oh, I love you, Angel.
So
I'm just a little student of yours.
Somebody really wants to be a stickler at some bar somewhere and say, like, oh, I've been to the Pyramid of Mexico. He's like, no, you haven't. You've been to a big pile of rock in Mexico. They like to call a pyramid, but it's not really.
Well, there might be more of them, but at the moment there's only that one. The Great Giza Pyramid.
It's the only one that I'm familiar with. I got my fingers crossed for Bosnia, and I'm really hoping we find additional structures.
Well, some of the ones in Mexico might be the same, mightn't they? We might find a couple of pyramids in Mexico.
They might, but the outside doesn't give me the thought. And most of the ones in Mexico, they have little entrances and cutouts into them, kind of like your one right around the corner from you, where it channels down the center and then has a shaft up the inside. So I think they may have been doing a like thing in a different part of the world with, yours is out of dirt and this one was out of rock.
And to tell you, there was 3 of them. Marie Wheatley said there was another one near Silbury Hill. It's gone, but you don't see any evidence. You don't see any evidence of where that one was. She'll tell you where it was. But you've got the one in Marlborough College, which is about 3 or 4 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 2 together. And 1 3 miles away. But they're in all boys' schools. Eton, Harrow. They've all got mounds, which could be pyramids. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever they are.
The pyramids. But, okay. So, I'm trying to remember what subject
well, basically, we're talking about, we've just looked at the picture, and you can see 4 pyramids, but really it's 3 pyramids and the little ones. And we were just saying there could be 9 of them. There's been 6 you can see, because 3 of them are all completely broken. Aren't the other 3? Some of them are there, aren't they? One's there, one's broken, or whatever.
I'd say if somebody had pointed a gun to my head and said, how many things do that? I'd say, well, there are really 5 pyramid structures. There are other piles of rocks, but I really can't call them a pyramid. But
is that what the one that you like to go in, but you can't go in it, but you've kept the videos of it, the little room with all the water levels? Is that would you call that a fire inside that one?
No, I wouldn't call it a fire inside. I think there's controls.
Just to explain, because they might not know what we're talking about, but these little ones, which there's 3 of them, one of them, it's there, and you can see lines on the walls and things like that, and Angel's talked about what he thinks they are, but you can't go in it anymore, and all you've got is a few videos of when people were in it.
They may open it up on weekends and special events, but I do not think it is currently on the standard tour. They don't want somebody going in there getting drunk or doing the nasty or chipping paint off the wall.
But isn't that what they've done? Outside when we said they look like battery things out there, and we were talking about it in our last hangout. Don't those have horrible smells in it where people have peed in them and everything?
Yes, people have used them for that too. So, if you're out there on the plateau,
that's how much respect they've got for it.
Hey, Bob, make sure no one's coming. I'm going to go inside there
and poo. So I put the video on now a little bit.
Go ahead. I'm going to start mine about when you start yours. So this guy here, this guy, I forget his name, but he's he's an American, but he's from, I don't remember where. You can watch the TED Talk. I put the links there. It's on my YouTube channel.
Harvard Scientific, that's a museum, sorry. Brian, that's Brian Forrester. He's just Brian Forrester. You haven't got a name up, I can't see it. Carry on.
Well, if you watch the video, it's there. He actually has a name. I don't need to hide it from you. He's a guy. Now, what they did 2 things. They looked at the void that's on the Great Giza Pyramid about 2/3 of the way up, and the great pictures of it. But what we're going to look at here is when they look at the top, when you were talking about the elevations. And because of the way they did it with color, you can actually see the different elevations as soon as he gets to it in the video in a second or two. Are you at about almost hitting the 3-minute mark?
Yeah, just 2:57.
Perfect. You're right on line with me. I'm at 2:57 right now.
Yeah.
All right, so here they're looking at that little void. And when you look at that little void, if you notice to the left, kind of where I'm pointing with the arrow right now-ish, there's a well, there's a dip in the floor. And again, I don't have to point it out. He points it out when he goes to the 3D modeling they're going to show you here in a second. Now, what I will suggest to you is that this room right here that we're looking at, which is on the structure, again, I don't have to make any of this up, they're pointed out for you, is in line with the top of the what they like call the King's Chamber, where I call the combustion chamber. And I believe that is separating out heavy water from light water. Now, right here, he's getting to the top, and if you're at the 2:24-minute mark, I'd like you to pause it so I can finish what I'm saying, but not lose what he's going to show you here.
So we've got a green top, yeah?
I'll get to a green top. Yep, perfect. Okay, now that shows you your elevation I was talking about. While you're looking at that, you can see the heart pattern. The brown ones are actually the ones that are elevated, and that's why you had the shadow on the natural picture that we looked at a few minutes ago.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you were looking at it from the bottom left-hand corner. There is how that
and now you're looking at it from the top.
Well, now we're looking at it north to south. Right. We're looking at it from the south on. It was looking at it from the bottom left-hand corner at a 45-degree angle. And if somebody can pause this video and go back and look at it so you can see that those elevated rocks was what was giving you the shadow, but the darker green is actually the area I like to call the koi pond. And I like to give it names like that so people can picture it. Koi ponds aren't very deep. You just have a couple of fish floating in it. Now, that's actually not deep enough for fish, so it really should be a minnow pond. But I'm still going to call it a koi pond so that people can visualize it. Now, that is not, if you look at it, the way it's constructed, is not welcoming for some, 2-lorry-sized rock to sit on it. It's not. It is not structured for that. And the Pyramidion they show doesn't have a void in the middle where it would lock into place. So they can blow all the smoke they want. That thing that they show you would probably fit in the koi pond. But then it wouldn't really be a top to the pyramid. It would just be a thing sitting on top of the pyramid. But these are the reasons why
But you believe that that's original, not been put on afterwards, not added to. That's the original.
That's correct as well, because this gentleman, he also points out how the top layer of rock, where he shows you the blue, that layer of rock is actually a slightly different rock, and it is in a square with the corner cut out of its shape to allow the center rock on the top to be able to expand and breathe and stuff with the heat and still stay in that pool of rock so it stays on top of the structure. This structure was designed to allow for the heat expansion. He points this out in his talks, how it was designed to allow for the heat expansion.
So obviously far more advanced than they tell us that they are, that those people could have been.
Going back to it, why would it need to allow for heat expansion if it has 2 lorries sitting on top of it?
So why? Tell us why.
To the sun if there was a pyramidion on top of it. So all these evidence, all these facts that are in our face show you that there was never a pyramidion. I don't have to do it. Science does it for you. Trust the science. No, I'm not going to say that word. There's so much stuff showing you that their story is false. There was never a pyramidion. There was never a top. If there was not a top, that allows my view to continue. Now, there was also never a skin. There was never a casing stones. And we can expand onto that too.
Does one of them one of them has casing stones at the top, doesn't it? The other one, the middle one.
At the top, yes, the middle one does, because that one was designed to be the antithesis of this one.
That works out with the positive, neutral, and negative, doesn't it? Because one's positive, one's neutral, one's negative.
One was designed to retain the static electricity. The other one, which you can actually, if you want, jump back to about a minute in where I'm showing the picture of it, it was designed to vent the static electricity. So at ground level, one of them is going to have a different charge. It doesn't have to be, the value, it's just different. If one is more than the other, you're pulling your linens out of the dryer and you got too much static electricity there, as soon as you allow it to ground, it's going to short, it's going to snap, That's a transference of energy from more to less. It doesn't matter really if it's a high static day or low static day. All you need is a difference in static electricity to get the reaction.
Right.
Or a difference of potentials, technically.
So we go back up to this guy's video with the pictures. So that was interesting. I never knew that the blue stones were different stones and they help let that top bit breathe and expand.
Just for the heck of it, go back to 1 minute and 18 seconds. Hop back to there. You can see a difference in the color of the stones, even.
A second. Oh, right, that's just the picture with the right, there you go. Yeah, they look a different colour to the actual stones. Yeah.
Right. That's your own eyes. You can see a difference in the color of the stones. It wasn't just that, like, the top of the structure fell off and this is what was left that was broken. Those stones are a different stone. They are not the same stone.
So a non-conducting stone.
Right. Those stones seem to be, as I understand it, sitting in a pocket that is of the stones below it. So they're just sitting there in a pocket, like, you could take a frying big huge spatula and scoop them up, kind of. That is a unique configuration, and that allowed them to stretch and with the sun. And I don't know the rationale behind why exactly this is done, but the fact is it was done.
So they are non-conductive then. So it's like it is a capstone, but it's not the capstone everybody's thinking it is.
Right, I guess it's a lid, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
It's kind of more like a lid than a capstone. Now, I don't know which ones are more conductive. That would be an interesting question. I've not really...
Is this the pyramid that's positive? There's positive, neutral, and negative pyramids, aren't there? So the Great Giza is what? Positive?
Well, here's where we get into electricity talking. On a battery, your standard dry cell battery, the end that gives off electrons is usually referred to as the negative side, even though it's the one giving off the electrons, and the positive side is the one sucking them in. So it's difficult to, when you understand that, this one is technically, since it's the one with the abundance of electrons trying to vent them off, it's technically the positive side, but it has a lot of negative electrons. The negative energy is what's concentrated there.
But they obviously didn't want the negative or the positive neutrons to leave. A lid on the top.
Yes, they made it so that the resistance factor is there from the venting off.
Does that annoy you then that they say, "Oh, there's a missing capstone," when you know that it's like a lid put on the top?
Yes, it is. It's like if I can't think of it.
So basically they're saying that something's missing, and it isn't. It's there, and what was there was always there, and that's the lid. Why not call it that?
It's also when people say, "Oh, it had a skin on the outside of it, the casing stones of gold and silver and blah blah blah." It's like, no, it didn't, because if it had a casing stones on the outside of it, then the structure that I point out that you refer to as the music, the music sweeping patterns. Okay, if it had a casing stones on the outside of it, all of that would be non sequitur.
And also, it wouldn't fall off together, would it? Because they're all different shapes and sizes. There'd still be some of the casing stones on there, even if a lot of them had fallen off. Some would still be there.
I could see that in reality, some of them would still be there.
Yeah, if it had the casing stones, which it didn't. But if it did, and something happened and they fell off, some of them would still be up there.
If you want to go a step further, the casing stones that still, well, the marking stones, you can call them casing stones, I don't care, down at the first 2 and 3 levels that are smooth, right at the kind of the center of the east side, those ones, if you were to take a laser pointer and point it up towards the top, it wouldn't actually continue to protrude up, because each and every one of the levels protrudes out about 1.5 inches.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was shocked when me and Mickey looked at that. I said, "Look, they're all different levels. Some of them almost look like balconies."
Right. So
you look out and it's looking out, and you're not looking. You're looking. It's the wrong way. It's because they stick out a bit.
Right.
I've seen that.
So if you had casing stones there, unless you didn't finish the job and went back to chisel those things off, they'd be protruding out at each and every level. So the casing stone things is another red herring. They're selling you a story, and none of that is there. You can see the structure in front of you. All of that is a story, a red herring, to make it seem, presentable, because it was a tomb for some super duper, king. It was Elon's tomb or whatever.
Even though they didn't find anybody buried in it. They didn't find anybody buried in it, so how can it be his tomb? But anyway, carry on.
Well, that's where they've changed it to say it was a monument in effigy to them, or maybe not an effigy, a monument in memorial to them, and they were actually buried in the Valley of the Kings on the other side of the valley. So, other side of the elevation, the hill, whatever. So, again, all these reasons, all these, quirks in the system are why I do not try to even endorse, follow, or think about the Tomb Dogma story, because I think it's all fabricated over time to sell the please come and visit our wonderful land. We have these huge chunks of rock here that we don't know what they are, but we're telling you this cool story, and you want to come here and lie where the king lied, even though no king lied there. And you know, as long as you give us dollar, we you know, let you take picture.
Yeah, and also there's lots of tunnels underneath, which wouldn't be there if it was burial chambers. So we're doing something, obviously bringing or taking something away.
Right. That I believe is how they moved the liquids and or harvests around the structure. And I believe it was all either liquids and or gases, or you know, liquids dissolved in gases brought to another location.
And you said in our last hangout that you find that so strange, because in our history we only work out what oxygen and all those things are in about the 1700s. But these things were built before that, and they had a much better understanding of what things were, and might have even been using things we don't value today or don't understand today.
This is true. I believe hydrogen was the first one found. And I believe it was like 1690 or something like that. I'm trying to Google it right now. Doesn't tell me when it was found, but I believe it was in the 1600s. It was only, I mean, 300 and some years ago. I mean, that's not really a lot in the whole history of time.
No, and this was done before that, and they had a much better understanding of nature, how to do it, build it, the whole thing.
Yes. Yes.
And like I said, using stuff that we don't deem to be very important today, but obviously was in those days. But I just want to say that I just put the video of the guy back on, and now he's at the top, and he's showing you the different levels of those stones on the top.
Good. Well, I was going to...
And there, I think it must be that one, or maybe it's that one, is the nipple. Oh, there it is, there.
Right. So, you know, none of that looks yielding to or accepting of a chunk of rock to sit there and, you know, like you look at a ring without the diamond in it.
Do you think that a little bit of it, do you think a little bit of it over time has dropped a little bit?
No, I don't, because again, the way that the area I like to call the koi pond. So they built it
like that. So why did they build it like that then?
Now that goes on to a speculation which we can get into, but what I'm trying to do is get people to not see a missing pyramidion. I'm not.
Do not see a missing capstone. It is a lid.
Yes. And once you not see that, the rest of the system kind of, because if you keep seeing that or asking about it, then the static would vent off. Nature, if you ground something or allow it to vent, it won't retain itself, and that would be counterproductive to how the system
is that what you're looking at there? A little bit like the music bit, you know, the pictures of the stones, and you said they're almost like little balconies which stick out. You can actually see they stick out quite a bit as you go up.
Well, yes, because you're looking at a smaller size. The chunk, if you're about 4.5 minutes in, and he also I'm looking at 4 minutes and 20 seconds in. He goes really.
That's exactly
really
where I am, Angel. I'm 4 minutes 20.
You can see where he's actually pointing out the construction of the areas. So
that's what I'm saying. Is that a bit more like the? Well, I call it the music bit, so that you know what we're talking about, but you don't. But those different. Is that a little bit like that?
Well, he's showing the interlocking of how the rocks lock right there, showing you that this is not rocks that were just dumped there. These interlock. This is a finished product.
Could they have made it?
Sure.
Could they have made it completely flat, Or was it someone's putting the stones on? They're making the lid. It doesn't matter that that one's a bit bigger and that one's a bit smaller, as long as they make the lid.
Well,
or it was actually completely built like that for a reason.
That goes back to what I was trying to say a tiny bit ago. Is that what you're looking at right now? You should be looking at the heart again. Your 2 eyes and your nose and mouth, whatever. You're at 4 minutes and 50-ish seconds.
Oh, hang on, I better put it on then. Hang on, let me put it on. We're going on.
Oh,
you're too fast for me, Angel. You're too fast.
I didn't know you paused it.
Oh, I have to, yeah, because we're going through this video. But anyway, it's going on. I just have to let the video. It'll probably be a few minutes or a minute or something. So we'll just talk till I see it.
Tell me when you're at 4:35.
Okay, 1 second. Let's have a look. 4:31. 2.
That's fine. I'm at 2 too. Now, what
3.
you're going to see
what the colours? The brown and green.
Right. Well, you can see the interlocking over on the left. You see how they interlock?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Okay. I don't. He demonstrates. He's showing you, and you can listen to his own lecture. He's.
Oh well, when you're looking at the pictures, it doesn't kind of look like that, but I see it in the little drawing. Oh wow!
Now here we are. Now we're looking at the top view again. My picture.
We're looking at this bit here.
The koi pond area is actually molded into rocks. When they have a rock, it's actually molded into it. It's either chiseled out of it or molded into it. I think it's molded into it, but it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't. It wasn't that at one point it was flat and then all of a sudden it got molded that way. It's like when you see a set of stairs and it's one chunk of cement. It didn't happen that way by mistake.
Do you know something else as well? In our history, everything seems to be so Roman. Everything's built in a certain way and they've got the triangle things on the buildings. But this one is complete. These are completely different, aren't they?
Well, I think it was a completely earlier civilization.
Yeah.
So yes, it would be funny if on the side of it had Roman numerals or something.
Made in China.
Made in China. There you go.
Sorry, is that funny? You found me funny there, Angel. Yeah, I never saw that before, the interlocking stones. It doesn't kind of look like that, but if that's what he's saying is up there, that's quite amazing, isn't it?
Well, they were allowed to go up there and do some penetration and some I think they did some sonar scanning and some other stuff, and the Giza Antiquities allowed them to do non-destructive research on the structure. Something I would love to be part of.
Why is it some of them are like grey and then you've got a brown one and a green one? Is that just to show you the different interlocks, or why are they different colours?
I believe he was pointing at the different colours there, was pointing out the different rocks so you could see the different rocks. I don't think he was trying to say one rock is made of gold and one rock is made of, anything like that. I think he was just pointing out the physical different rocks.
Right. Do I put the video on now?
Go ahead.
We've got we're halfway through the video.
What are you at, 4:30-ish?
Yeah.
30, 40?
Where we were. So now we've gone back to the 2 eyes in the mouth.
Okay.
Which is your heart. This is the heart.
Yeah, you can call it a heart. I just really like to call it a koi pond. Because if you went up there and you took like a couple of 50-gallon drums of water and put it in there, I wouldn't be surprised if it retained water. And,
Oh, what, they needed that little bit of water.
I don't know. It could just be, and okay, I am a very strong believer in the gentleman.
Is water a conductor?
Well, water with impurities in it is a conductor. If you were to actually take, and you don't find it in nature, distilled water.
Do you think it rained there in those days or not? It's just been desert-like forever. Because if it had water in there, if it had water in it, then they'd have to go and put the water in it, wouldn't they? That's what.
Well, I don't know if it rained there, but I do know even today it still rains in the African plains, and the Nile River runs from the African plains to the Mediterranean Sea. And before we had the Aswan Dam, and we have like 6 or 7 dams over there. Before we had all those dams, that area would flood. And it is part of my premise is that if the Nile River wasn't at the base of the structure, then again, that is a caveat into the structure.
Well, I suppose, as
we've
talked before, that it had water around it. That what I said to you was that if just 1 second, we're getting to the end of this video. But if I stop this video and go back to the picture where the pyramids are all together, where is that one?
Well, you want to go about 5 minutes and 37 seconds in.
Oh, okay, I was there. We've got the music on this one. Well, I just wanted to.
That's right. Yeah. See, I knew that would get
Here
you.
we go. Just wanted.
Happy.
I'm going to go back to that, but just say we're looking at the pyramids here. Around this one, I think it is. There's a great.
I can't see your screen.
No, I've gone back to 2 minutes 30 when all four pyramids are there. But around the edge,
2 minutes 30. You got it.
There's a great big drop, and they're saying that water went in around there, so that because it's higher.
So around the second one, or around the where?
Isn't it around the back of the third one? The great geyser. Well, wherever it was, water went round. There's a great big drop, and the water went round.
I came across a great image. Let's see if I can't find it while I'm on the phone with you. Where, dang it. Tell you what, without.
So we're saying that boats turned up and things.
Well, that would have been around the back. At this point, there's multiple potential areas, but the one I was referring to is around the back of the. If you were to take the
middle
large
one.
pyramid, let you do one. What? I'm sorry.
Sorry, round the back of, isn't it the Great Giza Pyramid? There's a great big drop, and there was water there, but there was also water going round the middle one.
There was yes.
Right,
there
we
was
got that. I knew I wasn't that stupid. I wasn't that stupid. We're going to go back up here to 5 minutes. What did you say? 5 minutes 35.
Let me get back to that screen.
Oh, the music one's coming up. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, we're 5:37. Okay,
we'll put it on there and we'll put it on. It's always very good talking to Angel. There's always masses to talk about. Right, the music one. I'm going to stop it. There you go. And so the little platforms are like that bit. See? They're like a little platform. Some of them stick out more. Yeah, carry on.
What this image shows is actually a gentleman in the 1800s. His name Ronald Bergdahl. You can see it up there on the URL on the screen. He had actually gone through and calculated using, tape measures at the time. So it's not like super duper precise, but it's pretty good. The elevation and deviation of each and every one of the steps, the difference in elevation from the step prior to, the top of it, the lip of it, and the deviation from the front of the lip to the rock.
Yeah, how far did they go into the pyramids then, Angel? Looking on there, they look quite big, those slabs. Each slab of stone making up that pattern. They look quite big.
They are. The average size is about 30 centimeters. It is in centimeters, I believe. Yeah, 30 centimeters. So it's about 1 yard. So if you were to stand there, you would kind of have to, it's like jumping on the tailgate of a truck. Okay, each one. It was not designed to walk up. It was not designed to climb up. Some of them, if you look
what I was saying was, when they've got this drawing here, and obviously they're going out and they're showing you the different steps, but obviously the slabs themselves, as they're going into the pyramid, how long were they? They're obviously quite big, weren't they?
Well, supposedly they are rectangular in size.
Rectangular?
And yes, they are rectangular. They're not square, they're rectangular-ish. Like a
Really?
Flat rectangle.
Well, I didn't know that one, Angel.
They, if you believe the official story, they were quarried from somewhere and then brought here.
How would
belief,
they have actually got them up there? You know, like, okay, you could probably do the first few and it's okay, and then after that, you've now got to start hurling it up, bringing it up. If they actually were cutting that would have been so difficult, wouldn't it?
I said that was the official story. I didn't say that's why I said I started to say.
But I'm just saying, when you see how high it goes up, imagine getting to row 50. You're like, I can't do it. I've got no more strength with the machinery to get it up there. So they knew how to get these stones. Well, however they did it, they knew how to do it.
Well, I don't believe they did do what you're suggesting.
Right, no, because what do you think? Do you think that they were made there?
My belief is that they were poured on site.
Yeah.
They were fabricated. I do not believe they were quarried and moved. I believe they were fabricated on site.
So basically, they're a bit like concrete, but they're called stones.
Yes.
Wow.
And there is an actual
I thought that for a long time, but I never said anything because I thought if they're pouring them, it's whatever you want to call concrete, but it's like a concrete. I don't think people realise that either.
Yeah, it's called a geopolymer is actually technically what it's called.
Right.
And there's a place in France called the Geopolymer Institute. And they actually feel that they have the correct mixture down to echo what the structure was made from. So I think they're pretty right on. Everything seems straight, and it makes no sense to me, knowing what I know about these people, that they may not have fabricated right there on site. Now, if you, on the video you're on,
play it.
If you hop back to 2 minutes and 7 seconds, I know it's.
But all the pictures there, you've got lots of pictures, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm back there.
The bottom left one that says it has 13 videos right now. I think it actually has more. That says pyramid related.
Mm.
Within that playlist, if you actually hop in there, is a video of that right off the Geopolymer Institute's website, where they fabricate one of the rocks and they show you the comparisons. They put it under, the whole spectral analysis.
When you think about it,
it
makes
garbage.
a lot of sense, doesn't it? It makes sense that they made it there and not hauled it like 3,000 miles on animals that couldn't even carry it, and all those people it would have taken. It's more logical they made it there, isn't it, really?
Right. When you look at a building, you don't say, wow, where did they quarry all this cement from? When you look at the Hoover Dam or any dam, you don't say, wow, where did they find all this
Do you believe that they had to have some kind of machinery, though, to do it?
I believe that they had machinery, yes. Chris Dunn has pointed out that they had machinery. The drill marks and evidence of machinery is
it's beyond your comprehension.
Yes, you have to be ignorant and completely, denial of reality to say that they didn't have technology and tools and they had a drill and saw blades. I mean, you can see all the cut marks all over the plateau. Now, granted, they're not going to be on the tour.
Why pretend to us, though, that these people were backward? They must, if we had donkeys in the 1800s, they definitely were on donkeys and horses then. Why tell us it was like that when it wasn't?
Because they're trying to sell you a story.
Oh, yeah, because it's a tomb, isn't it? I'm going back to that 5-minute bit because I want to go through the music bit, because you're showing lots of pictures of the music. Well, we call it the music bit, but it's just how the stones were laid. And what you're saying is they didn't accidentally do this. It has been made this way on purpose. Yeah?
Right. Well, if you actually go to jump all the way back to 5 minutes and 40 seconds, that's right at the bottom of the structure.
That's where I am.
Now, right there, you can see that one line is at the 48 that might be inches. 48 inches? No, that would be too big. 48 inches would be pretty dang big. I think I'm trying to see if it says inches or meters or I don't know which
374. It's just got points, isn't it? But the
I
stones
think,
are a bit bigger at the bottom, sticking out, than they are at the top. It's getting smaller as
right.
it goes up in a way.
But 48 inches, I guess that's not too horrible to think of. So I guess it is in inches. So you see there, the one that's right in the center of the screen, that's what's referred to as the 33rd level. It is the tallest of the ones.
The one that sticks out the most.
Other than the two at the bottom. And I believe the two at the bottom are the largest because they wanted to have the most amount of resistance from the static electricity actually exiting the structure. So the two at the bottom are actually, what is that, looks like 50 inches. So the bottom two steps are actually the tallest. And there's a pretty decent sized deviation, but you can see right in the center the deviation
one
between
at the
the
bottom is
19
nearly
steps.
60 inches, and that one that sticks out the most going up is at 50 inches.
Okay, 50. So, yeah. And
if that's what it is. Yeah.
It and the one beneath it, that is the largest depth change and the largest elevation change, other than the ones way at the bottom. And that is where the static electricity from there is primarily quarantined from there all the way up to the top of the rest of the structure. And none of that would occur if there were casing stones on it.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. Because all the stones would have fallen, but some of them would have landed on these little balcony things, and so they would still be there, and they're not.
I'll go with that too. Just.
I'm just a complete amateur. You're the master angel. Master Angel.
So, I mean, the engineering of how this was done, and people don't appreciate what effort was taken to do it in this way, just to quarantine the static electricity to the surface of the structure. And it wouldn't have done that job if there was a capstone and if there was casing stones.
Wouldn't you like to know who designed it? Wouldn't you like to know who designed all this? Wouldn't you love to see his plans?
I would. However, I think they're long since dead, but that's just my opinion.
But it's crazy because I realised with Mickey, when we were looking at the video, I said, they look like balconies almost, because you could see the stones jutted out and the drop, not all of them. It's when he stopped at some of the points, I thought, they look almost like balconies. That was my description of it. And I thought I'd never noticed that before, but you've talked about it today, so that's brilliant. And it's all to do with this music thing. Am I making you yawn? Am I making you yawn?
No. I had a bit late night last night. I'm yawning.
Can I ask you something? Could it whip up little hurricanes and things there to make this energy? Just asking. I'm only asking. Don't shout at me.
Well, hurricane. I gotta shout at you.
Little ones, little twisters. You don't have to have big ones. They're making them and they're down on the ground almost. But could that happen there?
Well, I'm not going to say it can't happen, but I'm not going to say that sounds very...
Okay, I was only asking. Oh, there you go. There's a picture there. We're just going to go back to that. Just, people don't realise. We're just, there, that one. We're on 6 minutes 49 with one of the other little pyramid-y things in the background. And there's, I think there's sort of 6 lots of stones. A couple of them are still pyramid-like and the rest of them are stones. And you're saying that there might have been 9 of them. But that's the 4th pyramid.
Okay.
Yeah, just explaining. It's not really. It's these little things. But one of them, which they don't allow you to go into anymore, is a room with all these levels of where water and things have been. And you've talked about that and you've got the video for that on your channel, on your website.
Yeah. It's still, as I understand it, about 30 feet tall, so it's not that little. But compared to the thing sitting next to it, which is 500 feet tall, it's little.
Yeah. It almost, in a way, even though I don't believe in those anymore, it's like a nuclear bomb's gone off and just sort of destroyed some of it, or a big war has happened around it and destroyed a lot of it.
Well, knowing what you know of what I suggest the structure does, when you look at the large structure and the three, we'll call them pyramids next to it, I believe it was designed so that any static electricity that vented off was coaxed back on, which is why the one furthest to the corner is the most complete. The next one is slightly less complete, and the other one,
like it's shorted or something, like something's happened. There's been a big energy problem and it's gone.
Well, this way it would coax any static electricity that decided it wanted to make a break for it and lure it back onto the structure. I mean, static electricity hops from edge to edge is kind of the best way to put it, from point to point. You know, it doesn't go from round thing to round thing so much, which is why we put two balls next to each other to get them to short, because it builds up the potential before it does it. But if you put two needles next to it, you could probably get more of a arc than a zap, because it builds up the potential, it shorts, and then it doesn't have enough energy to maintain it, and it stops. Where if you put two points next to each other, like they do with light bulbs and spark plugs and things like that, then you can maintain a spark. You can maintain it, not just it does it and it's over. Now in a car, they only do it for so long, but with the spark. But the intention of the way they do it is they want to guarantee it happening, not maybe have it happening.
Oh right, you just showed a picture there. I'm going to go back to that in a second.
Give me
Let
a time
me just tell
thing.
you, it's 7 minutes 37.
7:37.
And it says again that this is not imaginary CGI. It's got the pyramid and it's got all these lines around it.
Pyramid with lines around 7. Oh, I see what you're looking at. That is
Is that,
I don't know
is that
exactly
the different things in the stones? Because Silbury Hill's like that, and Avebury. The stones there have all got different energies in them, got different levels in them, and different frequencies as it goes up. I was just wondering if they had done the same sort of thing with that.
Keep in mind, with this particular video, I'm actually showing somebody else's video in conglomeration with me talking.
Do you know what those lines are then?
So without watching it, I'm not sure what that image is actually trying to relay. However,
do you want to hear what we just stop for a moment and you can hear it? Should we just do that?
Go ahead.
What it was is Angel wasn't looking at it in his video at that point. He just skips over it. It's in the original videos. You have to look up what the guy says about the lines going around it there. But we're back on the lid of the Great Giza Pyramid. And these are some older videos of yours which we're playing.
Yeah, I kind of, in my mind, beat the missing capstone half a decade ago. And I have several videos rewording the same thing in different ways, showing different images, but saying the same thing, that, in my opinion, the structure never had a top on it, neither of them. But if somebody was going to twist my arm and say, which one was it on, the center one would have been the one that would have most benefited from it. But I honestly believe that it was designed the way it was intentionally, and there's enough resistance at the top of it, because like I said, it's also 9 feet in diameter. Its top 9 feet, so it's 9 feet square. It would benefit from it to vent off, but I if they had needed it, they would have put it there, and they may have wanted to have some resistance factor for some reason that we will find as we really pay more attention to the structures and find out that in some cases you need to have a little pocket of stuff in order to get stuff. I mean, if it vented all off, then maybe it would have less of a reaction to what they wanted. But again, I don't know. I'm not a
Can I ask you something?
expert
Just changing the
on
subject.
physics. Sure.
Are you surprised that it had all that sand around it and they found it like that? Like, no sand like that's appeared since then. I mean, it would have to have been there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years not being used for that amount of sand to turn up. On top of it, that was covering the Sphinx, covering things, and they had to dig them down.
Part of, I do believe that the area of the Sphinx and that they dug out was originally dug out. But I do also think that there are areas where we have dug out where they intentionally did have sand. So it's a bit of give and take. But I also think that it has been a long time since this has been in use, which you pointed out by the fact that sand was able to settle on it over years, and they can see lots of wear and things of that nature. I don't believe, but it wouldn't surprise me if somebody said, hey, it was operating 500 years ago and we've just changed time. But I don't think the evidence completely backs that. And I would honestly trust, Brent Forrester over my CBS News reporter, or, something like that when it comes to, or even Neil Lion to your ass Tyson, or the Lion guy. Before I trusted them on anything. So I do think they are older. I don't know how old. I do think it was a previous civilization. And we were touching upon, and I do want to throw it in there, why it is shaped, the rock garden at the top of the pyramid is shaped the way it's shaped. And I think there's another thing that we don't appreciate, and there's a gentleman who wrote, I have it on some of my playlists on my YouTube website, which you can find. A monk wrote a book that he discovered, which I believe to be a language from the past, just like Morse code and Roman numerals and Braille and all that other stuff. If it's consistent, it's a language. And I believe that he has uncovered a language where they used shapes and references to communicate. And it's pretty straightforward. It's actually, his book is called The Code, and his name is Carl Monk. And like I said, you can find his videos off my YouTube website. And once you actually watch his thing, you don't have to believe it. Just like you don't have to believe Braille works. Even though you can see people read it and they can talk to each other. You don't have to believe sign language works. You don't have to believe, but if you know it exists and you know what it is, when people do it, you can recognize it. Well, once you have at least watched Carl Monk and understand how the code functions, when you see certain shapes within the structures, I think things are going to start to click, and as more people actually accept that they may have had a language that was written in a more universal shapes and sizes and references as opposed to a character set like we currently do, that we could probably, like I've said lots of times, learn from this structure more than try to tell stories about it. We could actually probably learn from it.
Do you think this is sort of the time of the Anunnaki or before?
That I don't know. That I can't answer as far as how far back. That's not really my area. My focus is like trying to document what it did, show people what it did. But it's like I said, it's very hard when they keep thinking of tombs and pyramidions and casing stones and things that don't exist, but they only know of them because they're in a story. If there wasn't a story that told you of a pyramidion, you wouldn't look at the structure and say,
You wouldn't
hey,
even
it's missing
think
the
about
top.
that. You wouldn't even think
You-
about it.
Right. Nowadays, today, if somebody found it today, instead of finding it,
Oh, one
you
second. Here we go. Right, back on. Your thought again, sorry.
well, I was talking about Carl and the code and how to actually, as we accept it more, and if people would accept it, even if they just noted it down, they don't have to believe it. If they just noted it down and let somebody else put the pieces together and accept it, like if you see pieces of Braille all over, just note down what you see, and somebody else who understands the Braille can actually translate it. I don't want somebody translating it like, oh, and the God said my spirit will go to the east of the moon, and but either way, if I have the data, I'll eventually translate it, but I'm not walking around the plateau, and I don't have the data. Now, I was trying to say something else, but I forget what I was, and I've lost my when the video ended. But
sorry,
it's okay. I'll probably think of it when I'm watching this. When you broadcast it, like saying, "Oh, that's what I was in the middle of saying."
We are talking about the fact that no capstone lid.
Yeah. No. Oh, yeah. It's there from a story. If no one ever told you, hey, on the second shelf to the right are cookies, you wouldn't go into the kitchen and say, hey, Ma, can I have a cookie? Well, how'd you know there were cookies? I don't know. Cookies wouldn't be in your mind. It's like the elephant, don't think about, a blue elephant. What are you thinking about? A blue elephant. It's when they tell you there was a missing capstone and missing this, it's just a story that's been fabricated to, make it sound beautiful. And it's great that it's a golden capstone. It's a golden capstone 30 feet by 30 feet in diameter. Do you comprehend how big this golden capstone would have been? I mean, but it's easy to lie to somebody when they can't.
And as you're saying that's original, there's no way they took it off.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but it would have been huge. It's inconceivable. You've looked at the top of the structure. It wouldn't have fit. It doesn't fit the story. It doesn't fit the structure. The structure has a form and a pattern to it. It is not, oh, that's what I was in the middle of saying. If we found this structure today, if somebody stumbled across this structure today, they would have looked up there and said, oh, that's the helipad. They wouldn't have said it's missing a top. They would have said that must have been the helipad. You know what I mean? Your time frame gives you the what your mind sees. Now, what I'm saying is it wasn't a helipad. It's not missing a top. I don't know exactly what it is. Hopefully, over time, as more Mensa type people pay attention to it and actually try to decode it, pretending it's like a Rubik's Cube, we'll probably get an answer. But if people are lost on the tomb dogma and they're looking for capstones and they're looking for casing stones and they're trying to find out what building were built out of the casing stones and they're trying to find out the orientation of what the shaft points to and what star it aligns to on a Tuesday and on the second, third day in a March, they're not going to get anywhere because they're going down the wrong roads. They're going down rabbit holes that don't even have the right answers. Have you seen the movie? This is a great movie. I haven't seen it. Have you seen the movie Wag the Dog?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay. Well, in the movie, our government is trying to get out of a situation like, well, who allowed the person to be able to shoot the president? And so what somebody just says in the middle of nowhere is like, look, I'm more worried about the B3 project. And they're like, B3 project? Yes. What's the B3 project? Because we have a B2 bomber. They're like, well, there's a B3. And all of a sudden the buzz on all the news reports and everything is, there's a B3 project. Who's building the B3 project? When was this approved? How big is it going to be? How many bombs is it going to, so that takes over the news feed. And the actual scandal kind of falls below the fold, as they say. That's part of the problem I have is whenever I'm trying to talk to somebody.
And also, they're not all at the same level, are they, the tops of these things? Well, one of the pyramids sticks up more, doesn't it? Or two.
Well,
Or two of them
if
do.
you look at it, the smooth area at the top of the center pyramid is at a higher elevation than the elevation of the larger pyramid.
Right, yeah.
It is just like at the World Trade Centers, the one with the antenna was taller than the other one that had the helipad. Now, I didn't actually say that helipad reason on purpose, but it kind of fits.
How easy would it, say it was a helicopter pad, how easy would it have been for them to walk down into the pyramid then?
Well, that's the other side of the coin, is those steps are pretty large, and they were not designed for people to navigate. It's not like the pyramids in Mexico where you actually have a staircase that you can climb up. It actually has steps that are like 10 inches tall. This has steps that are 25 and 40 inches tall. You know, and they're not a bunch of 25 for the kids and 40 inches for the adults. They mix, like you like to say. It's like a music thing. So it would be a challenge because you're always at a different step. No two are like the same. There's only one or two spots where there's the same for 2 or 3 steps, but it constantly keeps changing. So it was not designed for navigation of anybody, humans, apes, bananas, or aliens.
How long would it have taken them to have built all this? Because
Well,
don't forget, there's stuff under the ground and all the pipes.
Right. Now, I look at the fact that here in the United States, the Hoover Dam is 88 million cubic feet or something like that, cubic yards, whatever they measure it as. Whatever it is, it's 88 million or whatever. The Great Giza Pyramid is like 87.5 million or whatever. So they are very comparable in size, volume. The Hoover Dam and the Great Giza Pyramid. Believing that it's poured, just like the Hoover Dam, which we poured cement, it took us 7 years from the time we broke ground to the time that the dam was deemed complete.
Wow.
So if they worked at a equal speed to us, and I honestly think they were probably more efficient, if they worked at an equal speed to us, the volume of the structure, I think they could have done it in a like or lesser time. And in addition to that, when you really want to get into it, there's a video that I can direct you to where I believe the lower parts, all the parts of the below ground where it's in the limestone bath, I'm really kind of the belief that was also poured. It was probably drilled out with something to create a large hole, and then the limestone was allowed to be poured into there and molded. And part of that is when you actually look at, which is why I'd like to point you to a video. There's one that I have. It's where somebody was climbing through the Great Giza Pyramid with a GoPro. And in there, when you actually, and again, this is looking at the structure hands-on, not just images and sketches and stuff. It's actually, a nice high-def video. You can see where they would have poured it in sections, and that's why there's divisions in it. And it's not something that's really in the sketches and stuff. It's when you look at it with your own eyes.
If they're pouring them, if they're making them, why aren't the stones all the same size then? Why are there so many different size stones?
Again, it depends on which structure we're talking, but if we're talking about the Great Giza Pyramid, they're different sizes because they needed to quarantine the static. If
that one's different, isn't it? 'Cause that's the one with the music thing on it. Well, what we call in the music thing.
Right. If they were a uniform size, it wouldn't coax the static up to the top of the structure. It would do the same thing as the third structure does, and the third structure is a uniform size. that's the one that's the average, the ground, the one that's not holding static and not venting static. It's holding whatever nature wants it to have. But if it had a smooth top, it would have less, and if it had a flat top, it would have more. That's why it's the average, and the other two are positive and negative. So it's neutral or average. The other ones are positive and negative, more than and less than.
Well, we hopefully made people think, because a lot of people believe it's got a missing capstone.
Well, yeah, or they believe both of them do, or all three. Now, the third one actually is, I watched with you the 21-year-old or 20-some-year-old climb up there where you can see him all the way up at the top. And then we've watched the one with the 18-year-old that climbs up the other one.
But you know what? When I watched those videos, I couldn't, whatever you think is there, when you start going up there, it's like a building site gone wrong. There's so many bits of stone and broken things up there as he goes up. It's not all cleaned. And I thought, God, it's got loads of holes in it. But obviously it's not what it quite was. It's not quite in its former glory, is it? As it's not been used or whatever it is for thousands of years, maybe.
I don't think it was designed to be pristine and squared like we would a building today.
If it rained, it would leak, wouldn't it?
Today? I'm not 100% sure of that, because from what I understand, the casing stones that are on there, not the ones that they want you to think that were on there, but the ones that are on the surface stones, let's just call them surface stones. If they were poured in place, then they are pretty much smack up against the one right next to it.
Outside, when he's climbing up, you can see holes in the stones.
Right. There may be pockets, but I'm not sure if they actually go through it. I haven't climbed up there. I haven't stuck my hand through. So,
yeah.
but I do know it's several feet thick between that and the structure on the inside. So even if there's a pocket for
and they must have known what they were doing, Angel, because it's still here.
Right. If there was a pocket for a chipmunk to climb in there or something, it doesn't like it goes down in totally inside of it, and it's kind of like a pore on your skin. It doesn't go right to your veins. Now, I'd like you to look at something. I'm going to try to see if I can't get this to send you a link.
Okay, we'll just stop for a moment. 1 second. Right, here we go. So we're looking at different pyramids here then, Angel.
All right, so this is Jeff's image. Jeff, his website is Land of Cam. However, I agree.
Oh, I see. Sorry, it is the pyramids. It's the Giza pyramids. They've got different names on them. Khufu pyramid, Khafre pyramid.
Right. Those are the pyramids that associate them to pharaohs. I don't.
All right. Okay.
Okay, if you want to call them by those names, that's great. But if somebody comes up to me and say which one's Khafre's pyramid,
I like your version.
I just call them 1, 2, and 7. But anyway, so I agree with his layout here. In fact, this wall of crow that he's practically pointing out with the yellow arrow, that physically exists on the plateau, and it makes sense the way he has it laid out here that would be approximately where the water would be, and he's done the same thing with the topology. Now, he doesn't feel that there was water flowing down. That's because he feels the Giza pyramid structures did different things. I think he's grasping at straws and embellishing a little, but he's on the right line, and I think he's correct about, at this point, 2 of the other structures.
And also, he shows 6 little pyramids. So just show people what we're talking about. So there's 3 of them, and there's another 3 of them.
He shows the helper pyramids as complete structures. Again, because I think, although he shows you how they're doing modern chemistry, he still paints the picture of how they want the structure to look if it was the tomb dogma. So I think he's kind of in a limbo state of they should be how they are, and they're actually doing work just as they're doing, but yet this is the way the Pharaoh would want to have it. So, but again, I agree with some of his findings. I don't agree with some of his embellishments.
And also, behind the Great Pyramid Temple, you can see the line going, and the water would have been the other side of that.
Yeah,
he's saying there wasn't any; it stopped here. But you think the middle pyramid that had water around it, and there was water over here originally.
In this picture, the water would have come from right top center, where it's kind of an amberish color up there, and then it would have flowed down the plateau, joining the pool of water he already shows there. And while it did that, it would have done work. And I think I point out how I feel the flow would have been in the work, some of the work it would have done. But what I'm showing here is I'm not the only one that looking at the topology of the structure and showing you based on topology and elevations where water would have saturated at that elevation. He took that elevation, said, just as I would, that it would have been right down kind of at the base of the Sphinx, and at that elevation...
Like, in those pictures, it looks like the pipes go down to the water.
Well, they kind of do. And again, this is where some of this is embellishment and some of this is factual. And but I still wanted you to see at that elevation, if you were to saturate it, what it would have looked like. And there is a construction there, which is called the Wall of Crow. It is there on the plateau. It exists. It's in the middle of in the middle of what, looks like a bunch of sand. And it makes no sense why it's there.
Do you believe that it says on there, Lost City of the Pyramids? Do you reckon there was a town there?
No, I don't. Because again, I don't think that this was in any way tomb dogmanized. I don't believe. I don't know. And that wasn't the reason for me showing you this image.
Sorry, it's just it's there behind the Wall of Crow.
Right. And okay, there would have been something there, but I don't think it would have necessarily been a city with people living and stuff like that. There may have been...
It doesn't look very big then, does it, if you look at the pyramids? I'm not saying the pyramids are small, but that wouldn't have been a very big city.
Okay. It could have been like a flea market on a weekend or a bazaar or something like that. It still could have been...
Right.
But I don't think it was a thriving city with stores and stuff like that. I without being in that area and actually surveying it, that's not.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to put something else in there. Carry back on. Why you showed us this picture?
Just because at that elevation, if water was to saturate on the plateau to that elevation, that is where it would saturate. And I agree with this image as far as the saturation of the water. That is where I was going and what I was pointing out. Now I don't believe him as far as his conclusion of what the structure is doing, because I believe he has to embellish in certain other areas. But I do believe with his setup, his layout is what I'm suggesting. And that's all I wanted to show you about this. Now, there's other videos he has, which, again, he's on the plateau. He's out there with a camera. I'm here in the States. He's, the other side of the, whatever you want to call it. So I have to abuse the images that he sets forth to me, because I'm not there with my own 2 feet doing it myself. That's out of my budget. I'm happy he was able to get that experience, and it would be great if I could ever converse with him and we could kind of work together. But I think the problem I'm going to have is, like everybody else, is they have their own mindset, and they're probably unwilling to be challenged, even when you point out a flaw in their thing. But stuff can happen. I've had people who've come around on me, so we'll find out.
Angel, I've always been with you since 2016. I was amazed at some of the things you told us, and it was right. It wasn't right back at the beginning, but quite early on, you told me all the pyramids were on different levels, and I thought, wow, no one's ever explained that to you. Who tells you that?
Well, you don't have a mentally competitive thought of what the structures do that you're unwilling to say, like, no, I like my idea better. Where a lot of people are like, no, I like my idea better.
Well, I'm not, you are Professor Angel, but I did look up a lot about the pyramids, and I got to the fact where I thought maybe they'd made the stones there, and that they're limestone, and if they are, isn't that trees? One of the limestones is trees, and I was thinking, well, they are wood then, really. They've got wood in them, but it did amaze me, and I've done my own videos on it, about what I've thought, and even that one where we saw people going up on the different, like, I'm sure I mentioned, like, oh look, there's like balconies. So I've seen things myself, but I like listening to you, Angel.
Well, thank you.
Are we going to go somewhere else now, or?
No, but unless you want to guide me in a direction, I'm not sure where you want me to go exactly.
Okay, 1 second, we'll just talk about it. Well, what we've decided is we've been going for nearly 2 hours now, so we thought maybe there's no missing capstone, there's a lid. We talked enough about that bit today, Angel? Yeah,
I think we beat that to a dead horse.
But we've included the other bit, because that music bit, well, it's not music, but it just looks a bit like a music thing. That's incredible. It's there. It's on the Giza Plateau System Configuration and Basic System Flow. That one you did 6 months ago, but you've got the chart out there. But that in itself, I think that's quite amazing how they managed that.
Oh, you know what we didn't point out is that video with the guy that we were watching, I think he's Filipino or Oriental or whatever it was.
Yeah, the one with the colours on the top of the capstone.
Yes. Now, he also had the luxury of being able to fly either 2 drones or a stereo drone, whichever it is.
Yeah, I saw that in the pictures,
They actually have a much better rendering the data on the entire surface of the structure. So somewhere down the road, hopefully if they release the data and somebody with a really big 3D printer, we could print like, a 6 or 10 foot scale model, and then you can like run your fingers on it and you can feel the stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if you got something about 30 feet in size, if you wouldn't actually be able to measure, like get a physical measurement of the difference in the static electricity buildup. I think a structure that size you'd probably get some real reaction out of, but the larger the size, the better the reaction. So that's all.
Yeah, the man who eats, breathes, and sleeps pyramids.
I'll go with that one. So anyway,
but I very appreciate it. Thank you so much. We have talked a little bit about the capstone before, but it's always good to talk about it again. No capstone, lid.
Anybody wants, they can go to greatgizapyramid.com. That's pretty much my landing site.
Yeah, it's up there.
greatgizapyramid.com. And Great Giza Pyramid on YouTube. I'm on several other things also, but primarily YouTube until I get kicked off. I think I'm on you can find me on BitChute and Rumble and
I'm on BitChute
a couple of the
as
other
well.
ones.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't always post everything there, especially the Vimeo, because they want me to pay, so I have to put shorter, lower quality stuff on there because I'm a cheapskate. But I try to plaster myself around it. I'm hoping somebody will stumble off of it, and 1 or 2 people might take me seriously and try to call my bluff, because believe me, if someone can call my bluff, that just means I have to correct my...
Well, you have said maybe it was a waterfall. Maybe it was all a system like a Disneyland thing.
It could just be a pretty waterfall, but I think it's...
But you think it was a plant?
When we really get to it, it's
an
more
industrial
than that.
plant.
I think whatever it does, it's on an industrial scale. And I do think there's a true harvest to it.
And again, do you think that they link up to the other pyramids that are down the Nile? Do you think it all links up with pipes underneath?
I can't swear they all link up, but depending upon their elevations, and that would be really the one thing that would be the most deciding factor, is that if one's like 50 feet higher than it, then it really wouldn't be able to, quote, link up, because the water would be running from one to the other. I mean, water does what water does. You can't change that. But it's possible that gas generated in one may be pumped through some of these underground channels and utilized in other ones. I can't say no. I'm not there. I'm not exploring the tunnels. And I really have no evidence to say yes. So, but it also could be that they affect each other on a more of the wings of a butterfly way, where, when you do something in your house, technically in the big whole circle of things, you're affecting everybody else, But somebody in one side of a room lights a candle, by definition, it raises the temperature on the other side of the room. Now, granted, it's infinitesimally, over time, a candle can actually heat a room pretty well. So over time, it will eventually heat the room. But by definition, a change in one does affect another one. And it's amazing what we may find over time when we actually take the mindset to say maybe these people knew a little bit more than how to drag their knuckles.
Well, we're only putting a pause on, aren't we? We will be back and always talking. We've had quite a few hangouts with each other now, and you fascinate me, and this is why you think it's a machine, don't you? Because there's just so many aspects to it. There's not just one or two.
Right. It's not just one thing I've found that makes me think this. It's just as I've continued down the road, the system has corrected me. I started on the incorrect path, and as I learned more about the structure,
you believed it was a tomb? You believed it was a tomb, Angel?
No, I'll be honest with you. I started with Chris Dunn's lecture. He has like a lecture out there where he talks about the Giza power plant. And in his lecture, he refers to a gentleman named John Cadman. And then John Cadman's thing, he feels there was a pressure pump utilized in the lower of the structure. Now, in order to be a pressure pump, there has to be a flow of the water and pieces that need to exist. Now, it's not that the shape as it's drawn on a piece of paper doesn't make it look like it could do that, but there is no flapper valve in the Great Giza Pyramid. There is no outlet in the bottom of the unfinished room where there's that pit for the water to flow out. There's no sliding valve at the end of the dead end shaft. None of these pieces physically exist. There's no evidence of them. They're not there. Hence, his theory doesn't hold water. It's fabricated. It's if somebody shows you a picture of a duck and you say, "Oh, it's a airship," it's just they saw an image and he fabricated a device out of the image he looked at and not actually paid attention to the structure itself. I started down that rabbit hole. In fact, I have videos over a decade old that I've deleted and or blocked because I felt that maybe
changed your mind. You changed your mind, Angel.
And right, but then when I saw pictures and videos of the actual structure, I'm like, wait a second. This guy says there's a piece here that's not physically here. It's not here. Therefore, his view is wrong. He said something is there that's not there, and that really got me started. I'm like, this is wrong, and I don't like being lied to. So now I didn't try to shove a video in his face and say, look, you lied to me, but I'm trying to show everybody else that, look, there are things that are lies. I can't put it nicer. They are lies. There is no capstone. I can show you dozens of reasons that in your mind should have
and the lid was fixed. The lid was fixed. It's not like they could take it off. It was fixed.
Right. There's never been a capstone. There never was a capstone. It was never designed to have a capstone. What more can I show you? But people still were like, well, but it was gold. You never had a sister, but she was hot. But dude, you never had a sister, but she was hot, dude.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Somewhere along the line, even when you think you've learnt more information, I kept myself open about it. Obviously, I talked to you, so if I watched anything, you were always in the back of my mind.
Well, that's good. And over the past half a decade, have you seen evidence of what I've said, or seen evidence of anything that says like, hey, what you said doesn't make sense when I look at the actual image here? I mean, I'm not trying in any way to.
No, you've made me realise the
actually...
little pyramid is further in the ground, so really it is the taller pyramid, but in the ground up it isn't. The Great Giza Pyramid is taller.
Right.
They're built on different levels. They're positive, neutral and negative. It doesn't have a capstone, Great Giza Pyramid. It has a lid. And more. Those are the things that just come to my mind that you've taught me.
You're an excellent assistant.
You are the excellent lecturer. What people don't understand is... You gotta wear a
short little mini skirt and high heels, though.
Oh, okay. But anyway, what people don't understand is we're not paid to do this. You're not paid to do any of it. You're like a lecturer and you're doing this by yourself.
No, I lose money to do this. I pay for 3 domains every year. Plus, I was paying for a couple of, like I was saying, Vimeo and stuff like that. I was actually paying to put these video ups, thinking somebody will look at this and say, look, this guy is right. This is, this makes much more sense than some Pharaoh dude and all this other stuff. But I had 1 or 2 videos that I showed you. I almost got 1 million views. And then
that's before YouTube have done their little magic.
Right, and then it
but they are the globe,
and
we know that they like CGI and AI. That's what they want us to watch. They don't want us to watch.
That's the other thing is,
they don't want us to watch anything real.
They
just want us to watch
and graphics and stuff like that. I'll refine it and make it look pretty later. Right now, I'm just trying to regurgitate the information to people.
Yeah, but they like us living in a fake world. You're trying to tell us what you believe it was.
Right. And I don't
but
think
you are a clever bloke, aren't you? Come on. Come on, Angel.
I don't want to pat myself on the back too hard.
I will. Here you go. There you go. There's my pat. There you go. You are a clever bloke, Angel. Pat, 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 pat.
Well, thank you very much.
And it's an absolute honour doing Hangouts with you, because obviously we're friends as well and we talk off and on screen.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you as well.
Everybody, you haven't seen all Angel's shirts. I have. Yeah. Very much appreciate your time. Thank you so much, because it's all done in your spare time.
Well, some of it's not always spare, but...
But you don't mind talking about it. You don't mind talking about it again, and you like telling people. So it's excellent.
It's hard. Like I said, when people ask me a question, I start telling them, and I'll say things like, well, this and that, and all of a sudden they start telling me about star alignments, and, oh, that Pharaoh was this, and he liked to do that, and, oh, yeah, I heard that he had 6 wives.
Can I tell you something? People do that to me.
And
I'm making all these videos about things, and then they go and send me someone else's version of something, and I think, I don't understand sometimes, because you think, I really hope that people suggest my videos sometimes, because I'm making videos about things. Not maybe all of them we want to do, but there are certain ones I think, well, why don't they want to promote their... Oh, they're always promoting someone else's video. Yeah, I know what you mean. But anyway, I appreciate you, and I like promoting you. I like us talking. You teach me things every time.
Well, unless something horrible happens, eventually I get access to a 3D printer. And once I have a physical model which people can visually see things occurring, it'll probably be harder for them to dismiss. And then once I get a larger model that actually in some way resembles...
Yeah, the water one, that amazed me really. I know that I've seen it before because I'm sure we've used it on an old Hangout. Oops, I just dropped the phone. Sorry, I just dropped Angel on the floor. Hang on a second, just pick you up off the floor. Sorry, you're not broken. Oh. The water one's amazing. When you put the thing from the fish tank in there and the bubbles are coming up to explain what it was doing, right. And that's how it separated the water, the gases, and heavy water. And I was like, wow, who else has done that? No, not many people. I don't think anybody else has done that like you, Angel.
Well, it's hard for me. I explain to people, and they can't visualize it. I'm like, well, let me make a model. Unfortunately, I don't have a huge budget to make models, and you can see my model was cheesy at that.
Yeah, but at least you had a go. It was leaking a little bit, but after that, it was doing what you want. You were showing what you wanted it. That's what it was like inside.
I'll agree. I'll agree.
Yeah, so I appreciate all your hard work and that you are a library of information. And also, I like the fact that you don't mind saying other people's names. Like Brian Forrester, or is it Karl Monk? Karl Monk. You talk about other people because you're not in this competition with anybody.
Well, they did something. They came to a conclusion. I agree with their conclusion. I don't want to, claim their work. I'd rather you look at what they did and what they say. And, it's like if somebody made a book on the best way to factor numbers, I'd rather you go read their book than me try to explain it to you.
Well, anyway, much appreciate. Do you want to say something else?
Yeah, like Brian Forrester, he's pointed out amazing structures and finds all over the surface of the Earth. And Carl, he discovered, I don't know the etymology of how he discovered, but he really discovered how many of the monolithic structures, I call them monolithic, not pyramids, but many of the monolithic structures upon the surface of the Earth actually relay what I refer to as a waypoint. It gives you its longitude and latitude in relation to the Great Giza Pyramid. The Great Giza Pyramid was the prime meridian in their math. Now, if you don't understand that, the numbers don't make sense because they're not in the prime meridian that we utilize today, which in Greenwich, England, because, that's where we wanted to stick it, because, it was you guys over there that decided to standardize it. You were the center of the Earth. The sun never set on the English Empire. But this particular, it wasn't it was the truth. You guys at the time, now it was our big, schlong going around. But it looks like it's going to be Japan this round. But we'll figure it out. In a decade or two, we'll have our answer. But the whole code, the whole mathematical equations and everything are based on the Great Giza Pyramid being the prime meridian. And if you accept that, if you change your compass and geo settings to the Great Giza Pyramid being the prime meridian, then the math works out. It works out amazingly well, and several of the structures geographically tell you the longitude and latitude part, which implies that since these structures can't be read from ground, like the Nazca lines, you're standing on a Nazca line, all you see is a huge pile of rocks. You don't realize if you go 1,000 feet up, you're standing on like the tail of a monkey. They were designed to be read from elevation, 1,000+ feet up in the air. Right. So that implies that they had flight. They had knowledge, they mapped the Earth. I already told you last time how I really think that they calculated out the foot as a division of the equator based off the movement of the celestial bodies. I mean, we can go over that again. I mean, that's also, it's a mathematical thing that you could say it's chance, but I think it was not by chance. I think it was calculated. I think that the civilization at the time had way more knowledge, and the fact that we use the exact same measurements to this day tell me that there's somebody out there that says, we know this information, we're going to utilize the information, but we're not going to let the general populace know the etymology of this information or the rest of the implications of this information.
I wonder what it means, though, because it's on the back of one of your dollars, isn't it, with the capstone sort of slightly raised?
I do believe that as well, and I think that's a power structure pyramid, and it's also an icon. It also
one world order, that is. One world order.
It could also, right, it very also could be an icon saying, like, look, we know of electricity and we're flaunting it in your face, and we're not going to tell you we know what the pyramid actually did, because, you know, in our 34th level of our Masonology, we actually tell you the big secret, but we tell you not to tell anybody because we don't want people to know that there's actually electricity all around and you can all be free, and, you know, just like Tesla said. But
what, free
we
energy,
need
yeah.
we need you strapped down. But, you know, I'm also not of the disbelief that they may not have been quarantining a gas, like I was saying, that's lighter than air. You know, it's kind of like the same way the clouds are held up there at that elevation and can't go below it. It could be possible that they were using, you know, this may just make helium for all we know. I don't know until we actually put it in motion and see what the result is.
Mm.
I can tell you the characteristics of the harvest based on how the quarantine thing is set up, but, you know, I'm not a physics. I don't have access to really expensive toys and, you know, science playrooms and all this other stuff that would really be necessary. And I don't have any letters after my name, and no one's going to give me a grant. And, you know, it's just that's my story of woe. I'm done.
Well, like I said, I very much appreciate all your wisdom and everything, Angel, and thank you, chat room, for listening to us if you get to the end of this video. But I just wish I had enough money to send you there.
Well, physically going there would be nice, but I would have to kind of be like the Jeff, the one that you're, anyway, where I kind of lived there, and as time goes on, I gain access to restricted areas. You know, it would take way
You'd be
too
gone
long
forever
for me
then,
to...
while you're waiting to get into all these places. When did you see
Yeah,
Angel? 2 years ago. He's still waiting to get down in those tunnels.
Well, you know, maybe I can start giving tours or something, but I don't have an answer for you. I'm kind of happy where I am. I take care of my mom. I'm pretty, I'm cool here. But going there would be nice, but I don't think they would give me access to what I would need access to. It would be like standing right in front of the, you know, the Mona Lisa and saying, look, can I please just see what type of oil-based paint they use to paint that, because I need to color match it if I was an artist. And they're like, you can look at it, but you can't touch it.
Oh,
I'd be like,
that'd be even worse, wouldn't it? I'm here, I'm standing in it, and I'm not allowed to do anything.
You know, I want to go up in that room that you can't get into. I want to go down there. I want to go into the grotto where you don't allow people to go. I want to get to the areas where, you know, I'd like to go up to that vacuole area. But, you know, since I'm not coming from a college and I haven't been teaching people, and I'm not going to promote the structure in a way that, you know, they're going to get more tourism, no one's going to give me the time of day. But that doesn't mean I'm giving up. It just means that I know going there would kind of be not...
You could sneak in and see if you could sneak through some of this stuff. I've got $1,000. Here you go.
Well, if I had a bunch of money like that, I'd consider it. But on the other side of the coin, honestly, I would rather be Brennan Forrester's, like, slave and just follow in his footsteps, because he goes on the tour with a group of 30 people, and he can say, hey, here's $1,000, let my group into this area. You know what I mean? And that's the tours that I want to go on to, is where they're greasing the wheels to get into the behind the scenes spots. I don't want to go on the normal tourist thing, because all they're going to do is tell me where the pharaoh did and how, you know, the soul had to go here, and, you know, stuff like that. And that's not the tour I want. And that's unless I'm with the right people, that's the tour I'd get. I need the all access. I don't even need the all access. I just need the access to the areas that are important to me tour. I don't need to see where the king slept. I don't care about the king. I need to see the areas I need to see. And to be honest, I would have to have a bunch of money. I'd like to use drones and fly it into areas and actually get looks, because how something is shaped really proves or disproves what I'm saying. And the structure is the ultimate answer. And that's, and like I said, they're not going to let me in. Giza Antiquities won't. It ain't going to happen. Unless I live there, like I'm sure Jeff lives there, and I'm sure he gets to know the guards and gets into certain areas at the right time, or, you know, he'll give a tour to somebody who actually has money, and he's like, look, if you can come up with an extra 10 grand, I can get you into that area. I know the person to talk to, but you got to come up with the money.
Oh dear.
You know, I would love to be that person, and I'd love to find it, but I don't have the money to throw around, and I don't live there, and I don't have an income to support it. I'm not selling a book that tells a story. Well, I think, like I said, part of his book I think is correct. Part of it I think isn't. But
you're one of the only ones that talks about it the way it is, don't you? The way that you're talking about it, you're the only one.
I believe so. Well, although
Angel is the only one.
I think he's correct on, I think it's the bent pyramid and some of how it functions. But he, like I said, he embellishes a 75-foot plunger and things that just are unrealistic. If he would just see what nature would do, the structure speaks for itself, and the awesomeness of how it was designed and the way certain features of it actually try to communicate with you. If what he's saying is true, the communication in there would echo what he's saying, and then we'd be able to use it as a Rosetta Stone of sorts, if you will. You know, if we say there's 48.7 foot-pounds of pressure within this room because of the gases, and there's a spot on the wall that's 48.7 feet high, and there's a mark on the wall that would, you know, visually show you the foot-pounds of pressure. You know, this is how things would, you could show that they were communicating visually by referencing things. That's how they did it. They communicated visually and by referencing. They didn't communicate with a written language. But if the structure, if you're thinking the structure is a tomb, you're not looking for the language, and you don't, if something says it's 28.3 foot-pounds of pressure, but you don't understand how the system was working, and you say, well, the normal pressure every day is 14.7, you know, you don't understand that you're standing in a pressure cooker at its functioning state. You know, it's just because you think it's a big tomb. It's a vicious circle. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know, even that you're standing there, I put a video on Great Giza Pyramid configuration basic system flow, but you're drawing the inside of the pyramid. You just wouldn't have all that stuff in there if it was a burial tomb. That just wouldn't be there.
I agree.
But, Angel, we're going to stop now because you talk more than me.
All right, you have a...
But you'll talk about very interesting things, and it's not, you know, when you're looking at this stuff, you can't explain it in 5 minutes. It is a talk. It's always a talk, isn't it?
It is.
Well, I much appreciate the education.
You got to put people in the right mental view, because again, if you say, "Hey, let's talk about the pyramid," they're expecting me to talk about pharaohs, you know, spirits, star alignment, you know, everything that I'm not willing to talk about.
Yeah. No. Because what is it? It's a, what is it? The system. It's a machine. Yeah. So thank you very much, Angel. We're going to stop now. Okay?
Okay.
But I very appreciate it, and we'll be back in a few weeks or a month.
Yes, we will.
Anyway, thank you, Angel. Mwah! Thank you, chat room.